remember that dress? We couldn't agree on whether it was black and blue or white and gold. People were at each other's throats, all because of differences between eyes or device screens. It's no wonder journalism has polarized us. We were already polarized. Of course, it didn't start out like this, right? Surely there was a time from the good old days where newspapers told the truth. Journalists couldn't be bought out, and consumers were never stuck in echo chambers. You probably already know what your position on this question is. Even comedian Bill Burr laments a time where you didn't know how your local weatherman voted. Then again, Noam Chomsky believes it's always been the case that media outlets have had a secret agenda. Although he did doubt initial claims of the Cambodian genocide, which turned out to be true. Maybe he knows as little as a stand-up comic. Is there a grain of truth in journalism today, or is objectivity like finding a needle in the haystack? Is it true that there's no such thing as bad news, and is the future of journalism one of tribalism? The good news is you can relax. It doesn't matter whether you wear a tinfoil hat or you're thinking you're wearing one. Today, we're going to fact-check the fact-checkers. So it's time to learn how history works, as we get the scoop on why journalism became so divisive. Chapter 1. Pressing Matters. When it comes to spreading news, word of mouth is king. But in the land of pharaohs and emperors, the printed word carried weight. Sure, pictures on papyrus and scribblings on wax slates weren't exactly showcasing the modern-day standards of journalism, but we've all got to start somewhere. That's why the advent of Acta Diurna in 59 BCE was a game-changer. Up until then, ancient historians didn't see a problem with failing to cite sources. After all, their cultures hadn't conceptualized it yet. That's why stories of war and political turmoil were routinely exaggerated, meddled, and even backed up with irrefutable claims of, "my cousin told me," or "it came to me in a dream." But the Acta Diurna took things more seriously. These were the Roman Empire's daily official notices. Information was carved onto metal or stone and then exhibited in public spaces for citizens to read. Think of it like a daily gazette, but without the funny pages. Of course, these official postings came from the government, which meant editorial came through a fixed lens. It wasn't like there were magazine stands where every publication had series of editors and writers. Instead, it was just the one document with a short, linear chain of command. Citizens didn't know better. How could they? But at least a precedent had been set. It's important to share information in civilization. This practice more or less carried on for almost 1500 years, give or take a few innovations and developments. But then came Johannes Gutenberg in 15th century Germany. His printing press was revolutionary. Suddenly, mass communication was possible. Up until then, monks had to copy Bibles by hand, a process that explains why the first letter of a page often featured lovely embroidery. Of course, if they made a mistake, they had to start the Bible all over again. But the Gutenberg press made copying, producing, and disseminating the written word so much easier. Literacy spiked. For the first time in history, the average citizen could be in the know, assuming those at the levers of power deemed him worthy enough or rich enough. However, this presented a new problem. Before, the masses could be told simple facts that were necessary for the basic running of empires, but the savvier a populace got, the higher demand for knowledge. And as every capitalist knows, every demand needs a supply. This week's lesson is sponsored by CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream offers award-winning and original documentary films, shows, and series that you can't find anywhere else. With content spanning science, nature, history, technology, military, history, music, food, and more, CuriosityStream has something for everyone. I just got done watching How to Go Viral, a documentary that explains where stickiness comes from, and it's a perfect complement to this video. There's tons of great history documentaries on CuriosityStream that I know that you'll love. Whether you prefer to watch on your TV, computer, or mobile device, CuriosityStream has you covered. Their platform is available on multiple devices, making it easy to watch your favorite documentaries anytime, anywhere. With plans starting at under $5 a month, you can gain access to thousands of hours of high-quality documentaries and series. With both monthly and annual plans available, you can choose the plan that works best for you and your budget. Go to curiositystream.com/howhistoryworks or scan the QR code for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and non-fiction series, and for our fans, use promo code HowHistoryWorks and you will save 25% off an annual subscription. Chapter 2. Pennies for your thoughts. Over the next couple hundred years, printing presses would become better, faster, smaller, and cheaper. And that was before steam-powered made things even better. It was like going from a 1996 Palm Pilot to a Wi-Fi connected iPhone. Technological advancements were compounding as fast as literacy rates. Information had never been so accessible. It was only natural that businesses would pop up to take advantage. Initially, newspapers were priced at a premium. The prevailing wisdom was that reading and writing were privileges, reserved for serious people and serious matters. In other words, the rich and educated. There was still a gulf between what the working masses knew and what the working masses were allowed to know. This changed around 1830 when Benjamin Day created the first ever penny press, called so because it produced papers that cost, you guessed it, a penny. How did he do it? He shifted focus away from the subscriber-led models of premiums by relying on advertising space to cover costs. Simple yet radical. Premium papers were undercut, and the barriers that had kept people out of information circulation were broken down. But an appeal to broader markets also meant a reliance on broader stories. Sex, murder, scandal, the hallmarks of any tabloid. More people were reading than ever, but the standards and quality of writing dropped. Reporters shifted focus from deep, thought-provoking stories to salacious scoops, especially if there was a chance to shape public opinion. A feedback loop developed. The juicier the story, the more copies sold, and the higher rate that editors could charge for advertising space. And the more paid commercials, the stronger the pressure to shift papers by getting juicier stories. No doubt this is old news to modern ears, but back then, this was brand new territory, and there were no rules or governing bodies to be accountable to. It was the Wild West of journalism where anyone could dig for gold. Things started to change with yellow journalism. This term refers to the absolute dregs of journalism. We're talking everything from sensational exaggeration, outright lies, and even wholly unethical ways of acquiring a scoop. No doubt the cynics watching will say, so exactly like today then. I'll get to that a bit later in the video, so for now, just trust me when I say you have no idea how crazy it was back then. Journalists were as accurate as a blind archer in high winds. Take Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, a larger-than-life contemporary of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. His silent movie career went up in flames when a woman died at one of his parties. The circumstances were mysterious, and eyewitness testimony no clearer. Still, it didn't stop papers running unfounded claims that he had raped and killed her. These allegations would eventually be tested in court 3 times. Yes, 3 times. But being acquitted meant nothing because the damage had been done. Arbuckle's films were banned and his talents unemployable. As for the culprits working the rumor mill, they carried on as if nothing had happened. As for why it's called yellow journalism, that's thanks to The Yellow Kid, a comic strip featured in Joseph Pulitzer's New York World. The strip later featured in William Hearst's New York Journal. The irony here is that Pulitzer and Hearst were the clashing titans of yellow journalism. They were the Gilded Age's CNN and Fox News, the Musk and Zuckerberg of Victorian times, duking it out to print the most eye-catching headlines no matter the cost. But just like modern users of social media, the audiences of yellow journalism got sick and tired of being fed a diet of lies. Think of the penny press as the fast food of journalism. It made people fat with stupidity, lazy in their thinking, and complicit in their own destructive behavior. It was time to clean up shop. Chapter 3. The Truth, the Whole Truth, and Nothing But the Truth. As the 20th century dawned, public demand shifted from sensationalism to objectivity. The man to usher in this new age was Adolph Ochs. When he bought the New York Times in 1896, he emphasized all the news that's fit to print as a way to say that factual reporting and unbiased investigation was the new way of doing things. Journalists had to leave preconceived notions at the door and try to break their theories to test its strength, similar to how scientists learned to include control groups to make sure they were sure. This new model caught on quickly. For the public, it was like watching nothing but reality TV shows until finally being offered HBO and Breaking Bad. The difference was night and day. Next, journalism schools started. Missouri opened the doors to the School of Journalism in 1908, and in 1912, Columbia University unveiled their own graduate school of journalism. Much like how music students and young filmmakers have heroes to aspire to and great works of art to appreciate, journalists now had their own benchmarks. Reporting was no longer a gig to pay the bills. It was on its way to being a respected branch of literary tradition. Standards of practices and ethics emerged. Accuracy was prioritized. Fairness and impartiality were incorporated so that multiple sides of the story got their say. It was also important for journalists to maintain a degree of independence so that they couldn't be manipulated by any editorial bias or commercial pressure. Journalists were now accountable, so it was in their interest to be transparent and be prepared to disclose their methods. But the biggest shift was the treatment of subjects and sources. Gone were the days of using someone's life as tomorrow's headline. Journalists understood better than ever how lives could be ruined and society could be changed. This was all theory though. They needed real-world practice to test these new ideas, and sure enough, they got it with the outbreak of the First World War and its sequel almost 2 decades later. Reporting these events was literally life or death. A mistyped word could put soldiers in danger, reveal military secrets, or give false hope back home. Journalists went to the front lines. They were as integral to the war effort as those brave men rushing machine gun nests. Accurate reports gave generals vital information, and informed loved ones back home about the war's harsh reality. The public trusts journalists and the media like never before. Truly, things had changed for the better. However, trouble was brewing. For just as technology of paper and the printing press had given humanity a new tool to understand, something was approaching on the horizon that was about to change the rules of the game once more. Chapter 4. Breaking News. Television played a crucial role in disseminating news during wartime. While people had access to radio, many would also flock to cinemas to catch the latest newsreel if they didn't have a screen at home. Undoubtedly, wartime propaganda ensured the country's effort appeared as favorable as possible, yet moving images of real situations provided unparalleled insight and connection. Photography had already demonstrated the power of visuals, but the ability to see and eventually hear moving images was as groundbreaking as the invention of the steam engine or the wheel. The immediate and emotional connection with the audience gave rise to regular news broadcasts and the news anchor, a role unprecedented in history. The closest equivalent might have been the town crier or the kid shouting, "Extra, extra!" Suddenly, the public was ready to trust information based on the person delivering it. Enter Walter Cronkite, a true trendsetter. From 1962 to 1981, this calm and steady figure earned his reputation as the most trusted man in America. But it wasn't just his authoritative screen presence and resonant voice filled with respect and gravitas. He had the reporting skills to match. He covered pivotal moments in history, from breaking the news of JFK's assassination and anchoring CBS's coverage of the Apollo 11 moon landing to shining a light on the Watergate scandal and expressing his doubts on the Vietnam War. His commentary was so influential that even President Lyndon B. Johnson reportedly remarked, "If I lost Cronkite, I've lost Middle America." However, this influence was a double-edged sword. TV's emotional pull raised questions about manipulation and bias, particularly when networks aired advertisements to fund their operations. On the one hand, the camera lens could clarify. On the other, it could distort. Consider the Vox Pop, also known as man-on-the-street interviews, where reporters compile public opinions on a topic. While some argue that this approach democratizes media and humanizes differing opinions, others criticize it as superficial and exploitative, a means to attract viewers and simplify complex issues. The clearest example of television's potential to distort facts is perhaps the debates between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy. Those who watched the debates on TV generally believed JFK outperformed his opponent, appearing calm, collected, and charming. Nixon, in contrast, seemed uneasy and unwell. TV viewers were unaware he had become ill and refused makeup. Radio listeners, however, formed a different opinion, concentrating on the content rather than the visuals. Some felt the debate was evenly matched, or even that Nixon had the upper hand, praising his experience and effectiveness, while describing Kennedy as inexperienced and performative. Humanity was still grappling with how to assess TV news when 24-hour news coverage emerged, with networks like CNN and Fox News intensifying both the positives and negatives of television journalism. Society had little time to reflect on these changes, as a new tool soon emerged, radically transforming the media landscape. Chapter 5. World Wide Web of Deceit. The internet came on disks. You had to unplug the house phone to go online. People were so scared of the millennium bug that they made sure to buy fire hoses that were Y2K compliant. This was the birth of the internet, the real internet. Not the behind closed door experiments at MIT, but a time when normal people could connect. No one knew what was coming down the pipe, or tubes if you're US Senator Ted Stevens. Blogs democratized news to a whole new level. It was as if our ancestors in Rome had individual acta diurna to display wherever they wanted, for whomever they wanted to read them. These brave people, blogging in their pajamas from their apartments, paved the way for citizen journalism, proving anyone could sidestep gatekeepers completely. Take Perez Hilton, whose 2004 page became the go-to site for celebrity gossip. His ability to get stories out faster than institutions meant sources knew he could spread the word sooner. Glenn Greenwald also built up his own audience through his Unclaimed Territory blog, before moving on to Salon and The Guardian. Even the Huffington Post started out as Arianna Huffington's blog. The ability to embed news links and integrate updates meant the digital space was far more adaptive and responsive than TV, which in turn had been more adaptive and responsive than print. The gap between finding stories and breaking them narrowed. Then along came social media. There's no doubt that historians of journalism will dedicate a whole chapter to the birth of Twitter. On one hand, giving voices to everyone helped galvanize movements like the Arab Spring and Occupy Wall Street, but the lack of gatekeepers meant there was no editor to be accountable to. Accuracy and reliability gave way to sensationalism once more, and ethical considerations went out the window. We've all seen videos of online creeps being ambushed by vigilante groups. Statistically, some of the men in those videos were innocent, yet some took their own lives before they could have their day in court. There was no way television and print could compete with the real-time documenting of smartphones. That's why they didn't compete. If you can't beat them, join them. 24-hour news media replaced the man on the street with the anonymous guy on Twitter. Evening news led with viral clips. News stations set up YouTube channels and TikTok accounts. Even political parties jumped on the meme bandwagon. There's breaking the news, and then there's breaking the news. Algorithms make sure to give you what you want, like some sort of Black Mirror episode where the magazines on sale at the booth are all tailored to individuals. Except now, alternative media has been growing in size, scope, and influence. For every station wearing its agenda on its sleeve, there's a competing station doing the same. At least during the age of yellow journalism and the Gutenberg press, we were all in the same echo chamber. That's not the case now. You know what I mean if I say Trump, COVID, Ukraine, Bitcoin, and gender. Admit it, you know exactly where you fall on these topics before you read the article, assuming you even read the article. We all just scroll through the headlines. That's because all the media you consume is customizing truth for you, thanks to AI algorithms and filter bubbles. But not for long. In the same way that turn of the 20th century folk were sick and tired of yellow journalism, 21st century citizens are tired of duplicitous tactics. The printing press increased reading literacy, but social media has increased media literacy. Clickbait is frowned upon, especially now that the Huffington Post has shrunk, and Gawker went bust. Understanding of confirmation bias is more widespread, as are other psychological manipulation tactics. Heck, even South Park made fun of people who say something is true because I saw it on Facebook. Twitter, or X, has implemented community notes to democratize fact-checking. So whether you like Musk or not, it's nowhere near as biased as when Jack Dorsey was at the helm. Or is it? Maybe you think the pendulum of journalism is doomed to swing back and forth with every new tool. Maybe you're an optimist who believes mankind will always sort the wheat from the chaff, no matter what. Or maybe you don't know what to believe because you still don't know what color that dress is. Whatever side of the issue you fall on, share your thoughts or conspiracies in the comment section below. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our one on Rupert Murdoch to see how a truth teller built a propaganda machine. Help us fight misinformation by leaving a like and sharing this with someone who thinks things are true just because they saw it on Facebook. And subscribe to keep on learning how history works.